Hey gamers, I am the Bad Luck Gamer, and today I wanted to talk about siblings. This is more orientated towards the players. Siblings are a great way to really, first of all, it's a great way to cement at least a part of the group together so that there's not really a need for them to go separate. Being siblings just makes a game super easy to keep cohesive, keep cohesive to the player group. Oh, I moved and freaked my camera out. Sorry about that. Uh, anyway, siblings are just, I don't know, they're really fun. Or even having a parent child relationship can be even more interesting. Granted, try to have the right people play the right roles because some players can play a parent and other players cannot. And then when you have a parent child relationship, sometimes it can just get awkward. Like, don't do that, son. You know, it's like, I don't know. It seems awkward to me. For other players, it might not be as awkward. But I don't know. It's different. But siblings are, or at least cousins. Cousins are another way of doing it without making it seem too personal. But they're a great way to keep the group together, and players are a great way to have an interesting story and interesting reactions between each other. In the past, I've had characters, I literally have had siblings, like, in the most literal sense, as different as night and day. Literally, they were scions who were going to become gods of the night and the day. They were very different. One had an impressive power over the other, but the other one was kind of more badass in a sense. So it really worked well, and towards their parent deity, who is also in the game, there was a family element that kind of stole the show at some points. It was really cool and really interesting. Even as a GM, don't be afraid to use parents or siblings as part of a story. But that's not part of the NPC section. I've already mentioned siblings, so go ahead and check that episode out. I don't remember exactly what it was called. It was one of my first videos, though. I'll have to look that up. Maybe I'll link that in the video below. Anyway, so siblings. The best thing to do with siblings is either to be completely identical or very similar or completely opposites. You don't want to have two siblings that are just like, yeah, we're siblings, so what? That's boring. That's boring. And I hate to kind of shoehorn sibling type characters into the two groups, but those are just the groups that work the best overall. If you have a different dynamic, please leave it in the message below. I'd be more than happy to take a look at it, and I'm sure other players, other GMs out there will be happy to see that kind of tip as well. Now, for identical siblings, identical twins, or just very similar siblings in general, what you want to do is you want to do a lot of the same actions. You can play two different roles if you want. You can be a tank and a mage. You can be a rogue and a tank. You can be, an archer, and I don't know what the opposite of an archer is. A healer. There we go, a healer. Whatever, you can do different roles, but when they're similar, they just do kind of similar actions. They both like a similar type of food, or they both just have a very similar personality type. You want to make sure that it's very obvious that the characters are similar in some form, even though they have different types of skills. Now, for opposite characters, this is by far probably one of the funnest, because then there's usually it's antagonistic. They don't have to be antagonistic by any mean, but usually it's antagonistic, and it's always fun to have characters arguing with each other in the game because players really get into it. It's just the fun of acting an argument out, and it's silly and it's fun. So I honestly don't mind it. Now, when it comes to terms of like breaking a party up because some characters get too into it, that can be a great story element for sure, but don't do it so much that it disrupts the group. Also, different types of things is dual destiny kind of characters. Like one has one destiny for one thing, one has destiny for something completely opposite or something similar. And always especially with twin type characters, always make the characters unique in their own fashion and have different types of destinies. GMs make different things happen to each of the twins individually, not connected to each other, so that the characters don't meld into one being, one two-headed twin-like creature. And honestly, besides that, there's not a lot more to say about siblings and twins. I'm sorry this episode is very short. There's not really much more. have interesting story, have an interesting backstory for the twins, something about their parents. Have twins with unique phenotype like traits, like one has a off-colored eye on the right side and one has the off-colored eye on the other side. Twin type characters, sibling like characters, heck, even having a younger, older sibling, like older brother, younger brother, older sister, younger brother, whatever combination is always really interesting because it gives one character a drive to aspire to be better than the character, or it gives one character a drive to be as far away from the other character as possible. There's so many different ways you can do it, and I highly recommend, not in every campaign, mind you, players, but I highly recommend at least in one campaign or another, every other campaign even, have some kind of relationship, like actual relationship with another character. And you know what? That's something I want to touch upon this episode as well. I'm going to change my title a little bit, but don't be afraid to have characters with, marital relationships or intimate relationships. If, you got two guys who are married in a campaign, it would be an interesting dynamic to see how a married couple, because married couples don't really act in RPGs that often. Characters don't often start a campaign married, and marriages and campaigns usually don't happen that often. But it would be interesting because then they have this kind of loyalty to each other, this kind of desire to see the better for the other character, and it can create a really strong dynamic in a group. And it's something I don't recommend in really small groups, mind you. Like if there's 3 players, please, nothing of the sort, because that can really make the third person feel like a third wheel in a lot of situations. But in like 4 to 5 size groups, I say go for it. I think it'd be really cool. I've never had it myself. I might try that in the future, though. It'd be really interesting. Even nephew, uncle, or, niece, aunt. Whatever you want to go about doing, whatever kind of actual relationship, like either marital or familiar kind of relationship you have in the campaign, can only improve how the characters act as far as staying cohesive, and can make an interesting dynamic for the story. Even if a player accidentally dies for whatever reason, if you have a very, serious campaign where death is a real thing. I mean, not like death shouldn't be a real thing, but I tend to be more forgiving. Anyway, it can make that death a major story element. And then, even though the player has to make a new character or whatever, they can feel good knowing that their character's death created such a massive impact on the story that it gives their character value despite the fact they died. Alright, gamers, so I hope this video was very helpful, especially to you players. Group up with another player in the group, make some kind of familiar or marital relationship going on, and see where it goes. Even if it's like the best of friends. Whatever, make it so that 2 players at least in a group are super connected and hard to break apart, because that makes it easy. If you guys have any other types of examples or tips, please leave them in the messages below. I really appreciate it and I love reading them. And if you like this video, please leave a like. I really need it so I know I'm doing good by these videos. Leave a dislike because then I know I need to change my content up. If you watch this video, seriously, if someone watched this video all the way up until this point, I should honestly start my video with this, and maybe I'll do that in the next video. If you seriously just got bored of the video and got to this point, dislike the video so I know that someone found it bored, that someone who watched it just was bored, and then I'll do something different in the next episode. I can improve if people help me improve. Anyway, gamers, ciao for now. Good luck with your characters and their relationships, whatever they may be. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.